In this video we will continue making chess in Godot 4. So before we start, we're gonna go to our variables at the top and set white to true, because at the start the first turn is gonna be white, so true, and state it's gonna be false, just in case this doesn't render as false. Now we're gonna go to our created input function, and here we're gonna select this and drag it before the show options, because we want to set the selected piece before running anything else. And I believe this should be good to go now. And let's start with this function we haven't done in the first episode. So get underscore moves. Here we're gonna do a match and then ABS, which will give us the absolute position. It's gonna be the board, and it's gonna be selected underscore piece dot x, and here selected underscore piece dot y. Now a colon, and here is gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So basically, let's print it: pawn, a knight, bishop, rook, queen, and here, after setting all of these prints, we are going to return an empty array. And if we run it and press on any of these, let's say on this, it prints out rook. If I run it again and press on our king, let's say, it's gonna say king, and works with every single piece. And now let's create a new function, which will be, we are going to start with the rook, the bishop, and the queen, because they are the easiest. So get rook moves, and then here we are going to create a variable underscore moves, which will be the local moves, and it starts with an empty array. Now it's going to be directions of the rook, and here it's going to be again an array of vectors. So now vector 2. So the first will be 0, 1. Then we write another one, which will be 0 and -1. So this shows the horizontal movement. And now vector 2. And here it's going to be 1 and 0. And again a vector -1 and 0. So these are all the directions the rook can move. And now at the end of the function, we are going to return underscore moves. Now before registering every single moves the rook can make, we need to create some simple functions to check if the square the rook is going to go is empty, and or is the square an enemy. So the first is valid position, let's do, and here it's gonna be pos of type vector 2, and here we check if pos.x is more or equal to 0 and pos.x is less than board size, and we can just copy and paste this and do the same with y, and if it is, we return true. In other case, we return false. Is underscore empty. Here again vector 2, and here if board pos.x pos.y is equal to 0, then we will simply just return true, and in other case you will just return false. And the last one is enemy. Here again position of type vector 2, and now if is white and board dot position x y is less than 0, or we basically just reverse it, so isn't white and the piece is white piece, so that means it's an enemy, and we return true. In other case, we return false. Awesome, we have the basic 3 functions we need, and now we can actually go to our moves and check them. And here we will have a for I in directions. Here we are going to move from the piece position, so var.pos equals selected piece, and here we will create a variable of just position, and it will be our selected piece position. So basically what this does will this for loop will go for 4 times, and each time going to a different direction, checking if the square next will be an empty square. Then if it's not, basically checking if the next square is empty, is it an enemy or it's just out of bounds. So basically now this is the position, the place we are checking. So pause, and we add the direction. So if position is our rook, then we simply check through this. So we will check 1 square to the right and keep adding 1 square until we hit something. And now we just need a simple while loop is underscore valid position. So we basically check if the position we are trying to place the rook is valid, and then if it is, and here we do an if statement is empty, we basically and put pause. If it is empty, we to the moves we append a new underscore moves, we append a new move which will be the position. Now elif is enemy, so and put pause. So what we do again, we moves append because it is a possible move. And if it is not empty, we check if the move is enemy, put pause, and here once again we just append the move, but we need to break because if there's an enemy you cannot go further. And now if it is our piece, we basically just break and do not append the move because you cannot move to the same square that is already your piece. And now at the end of the while, we basically put the position to +1 because once again we want to check the +1 position from the already checked position. So now here we need to create a variable, again moves, and instead of having this print, we're going to have get underscore rook moves, and this we are going to set to empty, and instead of having empty brackets we are going to have moves. So now if I run and press on our rook, you can see that actually nothing happens because there's no legal moves. So what I'm gonna do is go to our ready function and here remove the ones so we can check easier if it's actually working. Now if I press on my rook, you can see that the available moves appear. And now if we want to get the bishop moves, I'm just gonna simply copy this function right here from the rooks. Now just paste it, and instead of rook we are going to have bishop moves, and instead of the directions being horizontal and vertical, it's gonna be diagonal. So I'm gonna change all the zeros into ones and change basically 1 1 1 minus 1 minus 1 1 and minus minus. Instead of print we do underscore moves equals to get bishop moves and paste it, and if we go into the game you can see that it works. Awesome. And now let's do the queen. So what, again, I'm gonna just copy the rook and paste it, and instead of get rook moves it's gonna be queen moves. And now simply we are going just to add 4 more vectors, which will be the diagonal vectors. So 1 1 1 minus 1 1 minus 1 and 1 and minus 1 and minus 1. And here instead of print again get queen moves. And now I just run the game and press on our, you can see that it goes to all the 3 directions it can go. Now if it was in the middle somewhere, it could be able to go to every single direction. Now let's do the knight and the king. So let's do the king. I'm gonna copy the queen moves, the entire function, paste it right here, and instead of queen it's gonna be king. And now we leave everything as it is. The only thing we need to remove is basically the while loop, because the king can only move one square at a time, so the while loop doesn't really work in this place. So what we're going to do is just if is valid position. Now there will be no break function, and this as well we should remove. Now instead of having pause plus equal I, we can just do plus I and delete this as well. And now if we run it, we can move our king, but only one square at a time. And now let's do the knight. So we are going to copy our king function, paste it. Instead of king, it's going to be knight. And now here, instead of having these simple ones, it's going to be 2 and 1, 2 and minus 1, 1 and 2, and minus 1 and 2. Here it's going to be 2 and 1, it's going to be minus 2 and 1, minus 2 and minus 1 and minus 1 and minus 2. Yep, this should work. And now if we go back, add the underscore moves equals get knight moves, and if we press on this, you can see that we can go to all 3 squares. Awesome. And now the hardest part is gonna be the pawn. So we're gonna go to the bottom here, again a new function, get pawn moves, and here it's gonna be var underscore moves. It's gonna be empty. Now it's gonna be var direction. It's a single direction, and another variable is first move, which will be false. And now here we basically check if the pawn that is going to move is white pawn. If it is, the direction will be vector 2 of 1 0, and if it's not white, then it's of course black, and this needs to be a minus because it's moving down. Now another thing we need to check if it is the first move, because as you probably know, the pawns can move 2 squares at a time if it's their first move. So basically, if it is white and selected underscore piece dot x is equal to 1, it basically you can move 2 squares at a time. So it's going to be, or it's not white and the selected is 6, we are making is first move to true. And now here once again we need a pause variable, which will be our selected piece plus direction. And now here we check if the next place is empty. We can simply just underscore moves append the position. Now what we are going to do is make our position to the selected piece plus direction times 2. Now what we are going to do is make our position to the selected piece plus a vector 2, which will be direction dot x, basically either up or down depending on the piece color, and the y-axis it will be a 1, so to the right. Now here we check is valid position because we are moving to the side, so we need to check if it's not out of the board, and if it is a valid position we check if is enemy. And now if it is an enemy we basically just moves dot append, and we can just copy this, paste it here, and the only thing we need to change is this into the minus, because we go now to the left side and check if there's an enemy. And the last thing we need to check, so basically we set our pause to selected piece once again plus direction times 2, because this will be the first move if it is. And now here we check if is underscore first move, and now if it is empty, that means that we can actually move there. And also we need to check if the square between us and the two moves is also empty, so is empty. And here we're going to put our selected piece position plus direction, because it's gonna be just the one square movement position, which we also need to check if it is empty. And now if it is, we underscore moves dot append pause. And at the end of our newly created function, we return underscore moves. Awesome. So I believe we are done with our pawns as well now, and we can go to here and do underscore moves equals get underscore pawn underscore moves. Now if I go into the game, we don't have any pawns, I'm dumb, and press on a pawn, you can see that you can either move one square or two squares. Now if I place our pawn in the center, let's say, and press this, it only shows one because it's not at the bottom rank. Awesome, so we have made all the movement. So this is pretty much it for today. In the next episode, we will do the actual movement and get the pieces actually moving. So thank you for watching and goodbye.